start off by introducing myself. My name is Lauren Hedges. I am the managing director of HackForge, and I run OpenStreetMap Windsor Essex. So we are obviously a group focused on OpenStreetMap and how to make the most of it in our area. So this event is put on by Windsor HackForge. In case you're not familiar with HackForge, HackForge is the key catalyst of a thriving tech-empowered Windsor. We've been around for about 10.5 years now, working on helping to make sure that everyone in the Windsor community has a place where they can come and meet people with similar interests. So whether you are a professional, hobbyist, student, or brand new to the tech sector and any part of that, you are welcome at HackForge. We're volunteer driven and run. So there's a lot of different people who run a lot of different events. So feel free to join us for any event. They're always free. Simply by attending HackForge events and taking part, you become a member of HackForge, which gives you voting privileges. You can help determine the way that the organization is running and help decide where we're going next. To learn more about HackForge, you can visit us online at www.hackf.org. At that website, you will find links to review all of our event recordings, or those that exist at least, on YouTube. You can sign up for the newsletter. You can join us on Discord. Lots of different ways to engage. We do have a social media presence as well. It's like Medium. I'm in charge of that, so I feel like I'm allowed to say it could be better, but I'm only one person and I do what I can. This is my cat Bella. She joins sometimes. If you hear weird screaming in the background, it is the cat, so just ignore it. She's fine. All right, so with that, today we are talking about MapRoulette and how it relates to OpenStreetMaps. So on the agenda, we're going to talk about what MapRoulette is. We will give a quick demo of the front end of it. We'll talk about the makings of a good challenge. And if everyone's interested, we will have some discussion on how OSM Windsor Essex can make use of MapRoulette. We'll be in a better position to really get into that after we talk through everything else. So with that, we'll just get into it. I think I saw we had someone else join us. So thank you, welcome. Please feel free to put any questions or anything in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on that as I go through all of this. And I hope that you all get something out of this. So to start, let's talk about what is MapRoulette. MapRoulette.org gives you small tasks you can complete in under a minute to improve OpenStreetMap. So I pulled that directly from their website, hence the quotes. They put tasks in capitalized, I did not. So basically it is a tool that helps you to find data that needs updating, fixing, and or entering in OSM. You can search based on location, data type. So if you're interested in touching up buildings or setting land use or choosing transit options, there's, oh my gosh, there's so many different options of things that you can do in OSM, and MapRoulette helps you to find those. A big use of the tool as well is using it to help verify imported data. So if I want to take, for example, the information from the City of Windsor's Open Data portal, now I couldn't because the City of Windsor's Open Data does not have a license that aligns with what OpenStreetMap needs, but we'll pretend for the sake of this conversation that it does. So if I were taking that import and I wanted to bring it into OSM, it can be really dangerous to just import a whole bunch of data all at once, because you never know if it's going to have collisions with things that already exist, if it might be maybe incorrect, perhaps the projection's wrong, it's just not quite lined up properly. So to help avoid those issues, what people will often do is run these imports kind of through MapRoulette first. So nothing is officially added to OSM before a real person goes in and verifies it. So that can be really, really helpful, since obviously it is a huge task to check every piece of data that's going in from an import. So this is a way to help sort of spread all of that out a little bit, which is nice. So we can see here in the screenshot, there are some examples of a few different tasks, or these ones are actually projects. So the project is like, or the Incorrect. These are the challenges. So the challenge is the overall group of tasks. So we've got a bit of a hierarchy here. So it starts off as at top of the hierarchy is a project. And within the project, we can have multiple challenges. So we could have, say, a HackForge project. And HackForge has a few challenges going on. Within each challenge is a group of related tasks. So if we take a look at the top one here as an example, add direction to stop in Canada, Ontario. So the project is from World Binet. That is the user who created this. She named it after herself, or he named it after themselves, however. And in Canada, in the province of Ontario, they are looking to make sure that all stop signs have the direction in which they apply to. And this is something that I honestly never even would have thought about before finding this challenge on MapRoulette, is that in OSM, we should be indicating what direction stops at an intersection. Obvious when you're down on the ground, not always as obvious if you are looking at it from, you know, something serving you the map, or if you're just looking at the OSM data itself. So getting the information added into it can be really helpful. So that is like a quick overview of what MapRoulette does. So as I mentioned, it does allow you to search for location. It also provides direction on how to complete tasks. So in the example that I was just giving about the stop sign directions, since it had never occurred to me that this was something we would even be putting into OSM, I don't know how to tag it. Luckily, the task description was very helpful. In addition to saying exactly which tags to use, it can include links to the wiki entries on these tags and on the data that we're adding. It can also make it easier for people to contribute if they're newer to OSM. So regardless of the level that you're at, going through MapRoulette and solving tasks can help you to learn more about the system. They do also have the option to filter tasks by like easy, normal, expert, or all. So if you want to, if you're really new and you want to stick to the easy stuff, you can do that. Or if you are like very confident in your abilities, you only want to do the really hard stuff, you can do those as well. So not every single task is going to provide that sort of detail in the task description, but a lot of them, and at least the really good ones, they tend to do that. So it's really, really nice to get started with it this way. You don't have to worry about looking up too much to begin with. You really get a lot of direction right from here. It's also a great way to learn about the tags that you might not know about, which can come in handy when you get into editing your own things later on. It's also a cool way to kind of get a look at the rest of the world, right? The roulette part of MapRoulette comes in from the fact that you can just tell it to find you a task, and it will pick a random task from somewhere in the world. It's probably a country that you've never been to in an area that you've never seen, but now you are looking at aerial imagery of that landscape and identifying where rivers run and if there's actually a road here. So that's really, really cool. It's kind of like taking Google Earth to a new level because you're interacting with and using the data a little bit more. So MapRoulette does interface with your preferred OSM editor. As you'll see when we get into the demo, you do have the option to choose probably JOSM. There's actually a JOSM plugin that you can get, so you can do all of this right in JOSM. You can use ID editor, you can use Rapid editor, and whichever one you tell OSM you like or that you prefer, that's the window that the task will open in so that you can complete it and then go back into MapRoulette to mark it as finished. You can also skip tasks if one that it assigns you is like too hard for you or you're not sure. It gives you the option to skip it entirely or to say that it's too hard or to say that it doesn't even need to be fixed. So lots of different ways to interact with it. So then let's go over to MapRoulette and give a bit of a demo on exactly how that works. So I'm just going to switch my windows over here. We need this one. Okay, so this is our MapRoulette homepage. So it's maproulette.org. Remember, spelling for that one is 1 L 2 T's. I used to mess it up constantly, and even now I sometimes try to go to MapRoulette and end up on Mapbox because I'm just so used to being able to only type 3 keys, and then that's enough for the browser to know where I want to go. But when you get into doing too many things with maps, that doesn't work since everything is now starting with map. So to start, we're going to need to sign in. As with all things OSM, this is going to connect directly to your existing OSM account. And without signing in, you cannot contribute. So we'll want to do that first up here in the top right corner. So we click to sign in. It's going to ask for all of the access, which I will give it. And then I get to my dashboard. So MapRoulette does keep track of your scores. So they have their leaderboard. Right now you can see, ooh, I have 173 points. Not a ton compared to what some people have. Let's see what the leaderboard is saying today. Saying anything. There we go. So the person in place number 1 right now has 370,000 points. That's impressive. That's a lot of points. So it's cool. Some people are really, really into this, and that's awesome. So this is a pretty active community within the OSM community. So back to our dashboard. From here, it is also telling me about some challenges that I have participated in down here, my favorite challenges, my top challenges. So these are the ones I've participated in the most, a new one that I might be interested in joining, as well as a list of my recent contributions and some other popular challenges. So this makes it easy to jump directly to those that I like to do the most, or I can start completely from scratch. So for right now, that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to go to find challenges from the top menu. And then in here, there's a couple different ways that I can locate. If I am happy to do pretty much anything, I can just pick something random off of the list here. If I know for sure that I want something that's in my area, for example, I can zoom in on the map. Or I can go, I think if I clicked on near me, it wouldn't work because I have my browser set to like not share my location, but it is what it is. So you can see here as I start zooming in, we start getting these little pop-ups. These are the number of tasks available in each one of these areas. Individual tasks are showing up as this little sort of purple periwinkle notation there. So if I zoom in a little bit more, these ones in Windsor, there's 116 of them here. So now those will start to break out. If I click on one of them, should give me some more information about it. Right now it's just saying to start the challenge. Cool, but I don't know what that one's for. I feel like MapRoulette has been not cooperating today. When I was testing things out earlier, just, making sure I was ready, the site didn't want to load at all. So usually what happens at this point is if I click onto one of these markers, it will give me information about what the challenge is asking for at that point. For right now, it's not telling me what it's going to be. So we are just going to see what happens. We're just going to click on start the challenge. So this is adding the surface to highway. So what somebody's looking to do on this one is they just want to make sure that we have all of the highways marked with what they're made out of. So this one here is use the appropriate aerial imagery, street level service, and local knowledge to investigate the situation and assign the most appropriate value to the surface key. For small gaps, the value of the surface key on the surrounding areas can serve as a hint. Makes sense. So this one here, it doesn't give a ton. Some of them give a little bit more information than this, but this is a fairly simple task because surface is something that tends to exist already. If you're using Rapid or ID Editor, there's already a field for that. So it'll make it nice and easy. So if I want to choose which editor this is going to open in, we can see here in the completion box, current editor, edit in Rapid. So I like that one. We could also set it to ID, JOSM, however, but for right now, we'll stick to Rapid because that's the one that I like. If I wanted to not do this one, I would click skip. If I could tell that it's not an issue, from here, I could just click not an issue, or underneath other, can say that I've already fixed it, that it's too hard or I can't see it, or that someone else has already fixed it. For now, it doesn't seem like it's been fixed, so we will click on edit. That will open us up with a new window. So we can see the section of road that it has selected here. This is an off-ramp from Dougal Parkway onto Howard. Is that an off-ramp or would that be an on-ramp at that point, I suppose? So this is off of Dougal onto Howard, yes. Okay, I know where we are right now. This is the overpass right here. I got it. Okay, it took me a minute to kind of adjust myself to what we were seeing in that map. So since we're looking for surface, In here, this one I feel like is maybe going to be a little bit hard to tell because even just from the aerial imagery, it's not going to be super clear whether this is like asphalt or concrete. So I'm going to go with saying that it is paved. I'm pretty sure that in this area it would be asphalt, but asphalt. Chime in. How do you guys pronounce that one? I always hear something different, but I'm never quite sure what's the correct one. Maybe it's a regional thing. Either way, I'm going to go with paved. And since that's all that we're asking for here, M. Shep says ash. Okay, asphalt. Deal. I like it better. Okay, so we're going to say that that one is paved. And sometimes I'll find like, oh, well, I also know that this is wrong, like the direction or the name or something about it is incorrect. So I might fix that as well. But for right now, I'm focused on editing the surface so we know it's good to go. So I'm going to now click up here and call that one saved. It already adds the change said comment in. The source for this one would be the aerial imagery and a little bit of local knowledge, maybe. Source, aerial imagery. Then we're going to upload. So once that one finishes, I can close my rapid window, or I could just navigate, leave that window open, go back to my other tab. But we can see here, since I already clicked on edit, now it has updated our options available here in the completion box. So I can say that I fixed it. Okay, if I wanted to add any comment there, I could. If I want to make sure, if I'm not sure if I did it right, and I want to make sure that, you know, correct data is being put into the system, I can ask somebody here to review it. Next, I can choose a random task or one that's nearby. So this is where it can get kind of cool depending on what your goals are. So if I want to focus on improving local data, I would click on nearby and it's going to send me to somewhere else around the Windsor, Essex area, or it could end up like somewhere in Detroit, since that is also geographically close, right? Just somewhere nearby, but it doesn't really look at municipal, provincial, or even national boundaries. Or if I go random, now we're into the roulette and who knows where I'll end up. So let's try that. We're going to click submit. And where does it send us? Gave us actually one that was nearby. Maybe I didn't click random. Either way. So let's skip this one because we just did it. We want random. Let's try random. Hide instructions. Submit. Only giving me these ones, but okay, sure. At least now it's not giving me some that are like right next to us. So taking a look at this one here, again, if I were to edit this one, I would probably say that that is going to be paved. Definitely seems paved. So let's add in that. So we're seeing that the surface is not showing up here already. So let's add the surface fields to it. Okay, we'll do it down here. Where did it go? There we go, surface. We're going to call it paved. And once again, we will save it, upload it, and it goes. So now we'll see here that I fixed it. We want one random. So it's just sticking me with ones that are within this challenge itself. So let's go see if there's a different challenge that we can get involved with. So if I wanted to find one that was like really hard, I'm gonna zoom out, location anywhere. Let's see, connect rural India, invalid turn restriction. So here's an example where I was talking about using MapRoulette to verify imported data. So what we're looking at here is the main page of this challenge. So it looks like we are in California, I suppose, and they have importing business facilities based on social distancing protocols that business owners have filed with the Santa Clara County Public Health Department under COVID-19 public health orders. So that's cool. I'm not really clear on what they're going to be doing, so we're just going to start it and see. Verify the business address and location, skip addresses that are the owner's house, and add a point for that business using the provided name and address. For this type of business, we recommend the presets shop and retail building. So they also have a link to more information here in their directions, which is pretty nice. So this is what I'm talking about, how some of these will give a little bit more information than others. So this one looks like it's a little bit more in depth. They're really looking for something specific. So they're making it very, very clear exactly what they're after. And I think that's pretty cool. So this one might take a little bit longer to do rather than just saying that a road is paved, but it's really helping to build out the details of this area. So that's really cool and is something that we could keep in mind as a project to base off of if we're talking about how we can use MapRoulette for Windsor-Essex OSM data. So let's see. Would we fix the trajectory? So are you talking about on the specific task that I was on before?
Hello.
Oh.
Yes. So is it okay if I speak?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, on the one that we were just confirming that it was paved, the line, the path did not follow the lane. So I'm just wondering, is there an option to actually fix the path so that it does follow the lane?
Absolutely, yeah. So what's happening here is while we did get to this task from MapRoulette, it doesn't mean that we can only edit what that task is asking for. I actually have this problem all the time where I go in to fix one thing specific, but I'm like, oh, well, this is wrong and that's wrong. So let me update all of that. So that is totally like, there's nothing stopping you from editing whatever you want. I just look at MapRoulette as a starting point to find somewhere. Otherwise, I only ever do my neighborhood, right? So yeah, you can feel free to edit whatever it is that you feel needs fixing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's, oh man, that is like my biggest problem when I'm trying to use OSM is everything ends up forcing me to, not forcing, but like, you know, it's like when you're cleaning the house and you walk past, oh, this stuff's on the coffee table and I'll put that into my basket of laundry that I'm going over here to fold. And oh, I get into the bedroom to put the laundry away, but the bed's not made. And yeah, I have that issue very often when it comes to OSM. So I find MapRoulette is really helpful for myself in that way, and that it can really keep me focused on what I'm looking to do. Okay, so any other questions related to the use of MapRoulette? I like that you guys are participating, by the way, very much appreciate that. Feel free to unmute yourselves, put in the chat. However, if you are interested in getting a little bit more into like some of the details of MapRoulette and how some of the things work, they do have some really nice documentation that you can go through. Some of these links will lead you to the user diary of the gentleman who created MapRoulette, which is pretty cool. Some of it is, so this is an example of one of the diary entry ones. Some of it is directly in this site itself. So it's all pretty cool. This has been around for a little while now. I think there's somewhere in a lot of the documentation references like version 2.6, but I think there's somewhere at least like 3.3 now. So they've come pretty far, even since I just first started using MapRoulette, maybe a year ago, a little bit less than. At that point, even just the like finding tasks via the map wasn't really working. And now, while there are still some bugs, as we saw earlier, it's working so much better than it did before, which is nice. So we're going to switch back now to my slide deck, if I can find it. Too many windows. There it is. Oh, but now I have to find Zoom again. There it is. Okay, so switching back here. Good. So we took a look at MapRoulette. So now we want to talk about the makings of a good MapRoulette challenge. So we talked a little bit about this already in terms of the description and the instructions that were given in the description. But first, let's talk a little bit about where these challenges come from in the first place. So anyone can create groups of tasks, and these are called challenges, which is what I mentioned before. So we start off at the top hierarchy with project into challenges, and then each fix of the challenge is called a task. So the community can complete those challenges together. So these can be public or private. So you can think of it the same way as a public versus an unlisted YouTube video. If it's private, people can still find and contribute to it, but they have to have the link. It's not just going to show up through the search that we were looking at before. So when creating a challenge, you can use GeoJSON files or overpass queries to locate the areas, the nodes, the paths, whatever it is that meet your challenge criteria. So overpass is OSM's read-only API. It serves up the OSM map data. Basically the client, in this case, that would be MapRoulette, but you can use overpass through other services as well. It sends the query to the API and you get back the corresponding data. So in the example of the stop sign one, your query would indicate that you're looking for, that was Canada, Ontario. So you'd be looking for stop signs in Ontario that lack the direction tag, or you're looking for highways in Canada that lack the surface tag. So it will compile all of those together and it will tell you how many, there are 500,000 ways that are tagged as highways that don't have surface. And as you go through and complete those, or as other users go through and help you complete those, you'll be able to see a status bar of how those work. And within that status bar too, show you a little bit of, which ones are completed, which ones are, I don't know if that shows in progress, but which ones are skipped, which ones were determined to be not a problem, and how much is left is still waiting to be dealt with. So depending on the query that you send to Overpass, the challenge can apply to the entire world or to a single community, or I guess really to anywhere in between, depending on how you want to set that up. Overpass does have its own kind of complicated syntax, which we're not really going to get fully into in today's conversation because that is a lot. Like, it's a whole thing that I have a hard time with. Usually if I'm trying to build anything for a query through Overpass, I either ask one of the guys that I work with who's real good at those, or I will find a starting point somewhere else online. I think it was the World Binet project that we saw earlier for the stop sign one, I believe. That person also has a diary entry, or it might have been a wiki entry, I don't remember which, that actually lists a bunch of examples of Overpass queries that can easily be used to help figure out how to do what you need. And when you look at those as an example, it'll really make sense as to why we're not diving into that right now. It's a whole bunch. I don't know the details of creating a challenge using GeoJSON. I've not gotten into this yet. That feels like too advanced for me. But if you are looking to track import data and verify it, that's the method that you would be using. So you can either upload a GeoJSON file or use a URL that links to where the GeoJSON file is being held. Okay, so now that we know a little bit more about where those are from, let's talk about some of the best practices. So these are not like rules. You're not going to get your challenges kicked off of MapRoulette if you don't adhere to these, but these are what the creators of MapRoulette had in mind as being tasks when they created the project. So this is what they're really hoping people are using it for. Again, not all of them adhere to this, but best practices. So they should be easy to solve, and that they should take less than 1 minute to complete. So the surface area one is a really great example of that because it's super easy to see. It doesn't have a tag. Looking at the picture, we can at least tell it's not a dirt road, so we can call it paved. Good to move on. It should involve fewer than 3 OSM objects. So, it could be a way, so like it could be the road and a house and the driveway, but we don't want to get into having to like map everything in a specific area. Some of them do actually run like that. I was doing one yesterday that basically just took a chunk of space somewhere out in the county, in Essex County, and just like, what's here? I think the task was called like most popular or most populated unpopular areas, something like that. And it was really just drawing in houses. So that one took probably 10-15 minutes to do. It was a little bit more than I was expecting for a MapRoulette task, but it wasn't the end of the world. And the last one here, the point I find this one to be the most interesting, it should not require local knowledge. So anybody who comes across this task should be able to complete it based just on the information they're seeing in the aerial imagery. Sometimes you might need to give a little bit more context. If, for example, we had a task that was looking to assign speed limits to every road in Windsor that doesn't already have them, we would set up our overpass query to pull all roads. Maybe we'll focus on residential roads or any road at all. So we'll tell Overpass to send us all ways that are marked as roads in Windsor, Essex that don't have a speed limit tag. And in the description, we can give the users some direction. So anytime it's a residential road, that means it's 50 kilometers an hour. If it's a highway, that means it's 100 kilometers an hour, and anywhere in between for the different road types. So that way, the users, while they might not know the area, they can go based off of what tags the road has. We could then, to help make it a little bit easier and help ensure that more people are able to complete it, in our overpass query, we could filter out roads that are have their type marked as unknown, or like if we don't want to have service roads in it, things like that. So you can use your queries to omit data as much as to pull data to help to make sure that it's really centered on exactly what it is that you're looking for. But sometimes requiring that local knowledge is maybe exactly what you want, and that's okay too, especially if you are a collaborative group like OSM Windsor Essex, and we're looking to together make sure we have all of the bike lanes in Windsor marked, or all of the best bike trails, for example. You might not be able to look at a map and just know that, but if you are from the area, then that's something you might be able to fill out a little bit more. So in that case, we could have the query pulling in all of the parks, and as everyone goes in, we could be drawing out any bike trails that are there, or saying that there aren't any bike trails in this park, right? The average person wouldn't be able to do that. So that is probably an example of a task that, or a challenge that would be best marked as private. So it's only showing up to people who stand a chance of actually being able to complete it. But overall, if you follow these 4 best practices, that's when you're most likely to get input from the community at large, which will help you to complete the goal of your challenge in the shortest amount of time. Now, I cannot say how long it would take to complete any sort of challenge. You know, there are a ton of OSM users, but there are also a ton of challenges on MapRoulette, right? So it's really hard to say from that angle. But obviously, the easier you make it for people to contribute to, the more luck you're going to have. Really, you just have to consider what your goals are when you're setting up your project, writing your query, and determining how much information you need to put in the description. Thank you for being here as well. If you want to keep in touch, Discord is definitely the best way to do that. We have a channel specifically for OSM Windsor Essex. You'll find that under the, what do we put it under? Bits, because of course we would call it, have everything divided into bits and bobs, and then sure, fun and off topic. But you can check us out on OSM Windsor Essex. Right now, it's just a lot of me talking to myself. So please join me there, and we can chat a little bit more. So thanks again for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you too, and have yourselves a great evening. Bye.